You're telling me the rich host underground gladiator fights?
Joe, I can prove it. When I was in college, my buddy Jason and I studied abroad in Rome for a semester. When we were there, we kept up our urban exploring hobby from back home. Almost every week, we would venture through old cathedrals and historic abandoned buildings, seeing if we could discover anything new. Well, towards the end of the semester, we decided to embark on our biggest urban exploring challenge ever, the Rome Colosseum. Now, we didn't just want to visit the usual parts that you can see on a tour during the daytime. We wanted to go underneath and see all the backstage passages where the gladiators and animals used to enter through. We arrived at the Colosseum at 3 a.m. one night and began circling it, looking for a way in. We eventually came across an old brown maintenance door that nearly blended in with the concrete wall. Jason then pulled out his lockpick and got us in. After descending a few flights of narrow cobblestone stairs and traversing a maze of ancient tunnels, we finally made it to the hidden passageways. But immediately we began to hear sounds emanating from a discreet black door to the front of us. We were hearing what sounded like bombastic clashes of metal and the faint sound of people clapping. Called upon by our curiosity, we picked the lock of the black door and made our way through. We navigated through more layers of hallways, chasing the increasingly deafening sounds. When we finally approached a large opening at the end of the hallway, Jason and I gasped. What we saw was inconceivable. In front of us was an underground amphitheater packed with spectators, all donning animalistic looks on their faces. The crowd's eyes were fixated on the stage in the center, where a man equipped with an iron sword and shield was attempting to slay a wild 500-pound lion that stalked him. The crowd was egging the gladiator on, imploring him to attack. But suddenly, the lion lunged at the man and began to tear him into shreds. The crowd erupted in cheers at this. As Jason and I looked closer at the crowd, we began to recognize some faces. Amongst them were famous politicians, actors, and businessmen, many of whom were passing around stacks of cash, apparently betting on the fights. Suddenly, a member of the crowd began pointing at Jason and I. We had been spotted. The entire crowd then began to stare at us, and soon enough, a man in a gray suit ran into the tunnel we were hiding in. With a firm voice, he said, "Gentlemen, it seems that you have seen too much." Jason instinctively grabbed his lockpick and hurled it at the side of the man's temple. The man shrieked in pain and stopped his approach for a second, which bought us some time to start our escape. More men then came to the scene and started chasing after us, but our adrenaline was able to carry us through the passageways and up to street level. Joe, I'm still in shock about what I saw that night. All I can say is that if we knew everything that happened behind the scenes in this world, our entire perspective on life would be different.